Hi everyone, it's Jackie Williams and welcome to the Global Video Blog Hop. And this month we are featuring plants and flowers, and I decided to use the Hydrangea Haven bundle. So it's got this beautiful stamp set with outline images and fill images and some nice words with cute font. In addition, there are these dies and acetate, pearls, ribbon, and these beautiful papers. I'm not using any of these elements tonight, but they are there and they are quite nice. So this is the project that I want to share with you, and we have a few fun techniques here, so I hope you enjoy. Let's start with the background portion, and this is a piece of Seaside spray, and the measurements here are 5 1/8 inch and 3 3/4 inches. I'm just going to grab a piece of scrap paper, and we're going to use our blending brushes and Seaside spray ink, and possibly some Misty Moonlight ink. It depends on how inky your ink pad is and how much pressure and ink you're using. But what I want to do is create this ombre look here on the background. So I'm just going to pick up a bit of ink and start swirling it onto my cardstock. Now you're going to need to do quite a few layers, probably, I don't know, about 10 layers. Again, it just depends on how much pressure you're using and how much ink is on your brush. And you may also wish to incorporate a little bit of the Misty Moonlight, which is like the slightly darker version of Seaside spray. And you can use that one just kind of at the edges. Now I would put more layers on than this, but I'm just giving you the idea of how it goes. So you'd end up with a piece that looks something more like this. And at this point, then you would run it through the embossing folder. And I'm going to use the Painted Textures embossing folder. And this folder gives it just such a nice look. It looks like it's been watercolored. Now I have a bit of gilded leafing that's just stuck to the folder. That's why there's some little sparkles there, but I like it, so we'll leave it. Then from here, if you would like to get the little like droplets that you can see in the background, I've used my water painter, and basically all I've done is gotten the water going freely from the tip. Let me move that out of the way. And then just kind of dropped some drips on there, like so. And as it dries, it will lighten up the ink. In addition, if you want to, you can use some of your Frost White shimmer paint and also your aqua painter. If you have an old aqua painter or even just like a cheap paintbrush, that would be a good choice for this as well. Now be sure and clean your brush off after you do this technique, because this is paint and you don't want to leave it on your brush. So while that's drying, let's work on our flowers. So what we're going to do is grab a piece of watercolor paper, and we're going to actually paint the paper the colors that we want. So you can make these hydrangeas any color that you want. And right now I'm going to make the stem. So I'm going to do that in crumb cake. So I've just gotten my paper a little bit wet, and then I'm just going to pick up some of the crumb cake ink and just paint that over. I'm not worried about getting it really even. In addition, I'm going to grab the little flower from the hydrangea set, and I'm just going to stamp that all over. And it might look kind of weird and ugly now, but we're going to cut out of this quite a thin stem, so you're only going to see small portions of that. So once it's dry, then you will cut out of that the stem for the flower, and you'll end up with something that looks like this. So you see that it actually ends up looking reasonably normal. I'll set that aside, and basically I'm going to do the same thing. This time I have washed with Mango Melody, and I'll just stamp all over with the flower stamp. It actually kind of looks like a butterfly when it's stamped like that. And this time we're going to die cut it with that flower die, which is all one die. And then what you can do here is turn your flower die over. Now it was purple on the back, and just use your piercing tool and just push those petals up, which then creates this nice 3D look on the front. Now, in creating this card, I thought it looked a little bit sparse, just like that. That was just my opinion. So I did cut out the outline shape out of vellum. And what I'm going to do here is actually color those with the coordinating colors, the Mango Melody and the Crumb Cake. Now, you don't have to do this. You could have it without the vellum or just leave the vellum plain. But I had the tools. So it's just going to give a very sheer background that coordinates with the die cut. But it is another way to use your blends and your vellum, to use it on the vellum. Move that. So it dries quite nicely on the vellum. Whereas your Stampin' Write markers might take a little bit more time to dry, if they dry at all. So it will look like that. You see that it's very sheer. Okay, I'll set that aside. I'll turn that over. Then I think we're about ready to start assembling. So I've got a piece of vanilla that is 5 1/4 inches by 3 7/8 inches. And all I've done here is taken my scissors and just roughed up the edges a bit like so, to give it that more vintage look. And then we'll adhere those together. And then my card base is Seaside Spray, and this I have cut to 5 1/2 inches wide by 8 1/4 inches long. And I have chosen that measurement because it is slightly smaller in either direction, so that no matter what size of paper you have to work with, whether it be letter sized or A4, that you'll be able to cut this card base with the measurements that I've given you without having to do any adjusting. Then let's go ahead and put our pieces together. So I'm going to go ahead and adhere my vellum down just lightly and put my flowers on, also just kind of gently because I don't want to smash those back down. And it won't fit perfectly, like you'll still see some of that vellum underneath and around the edges, but I think that's good because then you can see the, you know, the different color variations. And don't worry if you see some of the adhesive, because we'll put some pearls on there in a moment. And then we'll go ahead and put our stem on. Now there will be a little bit of a gap here, but we're going to put some linen thread on, so don't worry about that. Now the linen thread, this is a little bow that I showed recently in a Facebook Live, but I'll show you again. You're just going to pull off, you want to set aside a length of about, I don't know, 8 or 10 inches, and then you're going to pull off some linen thread and wrap it around 4 fingers twice, holding the ends with your thumb. Wrap it around 3 fingers twice, also holding the ends with your thumb. Cut that. And then this smaller loop, you're going to fold in half, holding it all with your thumb. And then the larger loop, you're going to fold in half. You're going to hold it all together in the middle with your fingers. And then you're going to grab this piece and tie it together. And if you have someone else at your craft table who can hold this for you, oops, while you tie it, that's even better. But you can do it by yourself with a little practice. All right. Then I'm just going to grab a little glue dot and adhere that right where that little gap is between the flower and the stems. And if your linen thread's a little bit too long, you can just trim those up. And then I have stamped the Appreciate the Little Things You Do and white embossed that on Crumb Cake. And this little label die does come in this set, so it's quite good. It's also got a little tag, which we didn't use on this project, but it is included in the dies. And then we'll use the Artistry Blooms sequins, and they do have this one color way of the sequins that is kind of an orangey yellow, so it's great for this particular project. I'm going to mix in some pearls here. I'll use the medium one down here, and then we can use the small ones in through the flower. You can use, of course, as many of these as you want. I'm just going to use 5. Okay, then inside our card we have something extra. I'm really liking having colored insides of our cards these days, which kind of became popular when we had a few weeks where we didn't have Whisper White. So I'm just going to adhere an inner here of Misty Moonlight, and this is measuring 5 3/8 inches by 8 inches. And then I will still do a base of Whisper White, not Whisper White, a Very Vanilla, which is the same 5 1/4 by 3 7/8 as the front, and should be just smaller than that Misty Moonlight. And then I'll grab that piece that I started demoing on earlier, and I might as well use that on the inside of my card. And I'm going to use Misty Moonlight and stamp, "The world is a better place, the world is better because of you." I think that's such a nice thing to say to someone. And then you may have seen that in the kind of the side bits of that Mango Melody piece that I watercolored, I did cut out some of these extra flowers. There's this great die in the set that cuts out 9 little hydrangea petals or hydrangea flowers, which is a great way to use your little extra bits and to add some embellishment to your project. And virtually they're free because you can get them right out of your scraps. And then we'll adhere that in. And I think then our card is finished. So I hope you enjoyed that and that you make some, and please leave me a comment. I really appreciate all of your positive comments, and I appreciate getting to know all of you, and enjoy the rest of the hop. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.